The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello there, welcome to another fresh edition of your program, Current Affairs program on Leadership Television, The Big Issue. This is the first edition in the year 2025. My name is Winifred Weber, your host on the program. On today's Big Issue, we're looking at growing concern over quality of private schools. And of course, with me in the studio is a stakeholder in the educational sector. He's also head of school at Duvier International School, Mr. Olufemi Olakpomile.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you in today's program. Yes. On today's The Big Issue, we are looking at the growing concern over quality of private schools. Like I said earlier, in Nigeria, over 80% of secondary schools are privately owned, with the remaining 20% representing public schools. According to data from the National Senior Secondary Education Commission, NSSEC, there are about 50,000 secondary schools in Nigeria, and the private sector controls more than 20% of them. One of the driving forces behind this surge in private school enrollment is the perceived higher quality of education that private schools offer. However, as schools resume in the new year, there is concern over the quality of private schools in the country, with proprietors compromising standards for cheap labor. Of course, concerns are mounting by the day regarding the quality of teaching staff at these institutions, and questions have emerged about whether they are prioritizing teacher qualification and professional development or simply capitalizing on the sector's growth. In this episode of The Big Issue, we are looking at the implication for the education sector. As a stakeholder in the education sector, what are your views? Because concerns have begun to mount over the quality of these private schools. Like I mentioned earlier, we are talking about infrastructure. Situation where we have building collapse and even schools collapse in today's Nigeria. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, thank you very much. There is no doubt that education has come a long way in Nigeria, right from the pre-colonial era times up to date. We've had our challenges, we've had our ups and downs, but as a nation, we're still moving on. You mentioned the growing concerns over quality educations in private schools. Unfortunately, this is happening because of the decline in the public school sector.
Yes. Okay.
And of course, some people are taking advantage of the situation, especially in terms of infrastructure and quality of staff. But I believe that as we continue to work tirelessly, the government and the various stakeholders concerned, this problem is not one that we cannot overcome.
Okay. Secondly, we move on, and today's the big issue. Secondly, with the minimum wage of 70,000 naira in place today in Nigeria, there are reports that many private schools, especially those in the suburb schools, pay between 30,000 and 50,000 naira to their teachers. Hence, the reason they cannot boast of well-trained teachers. How true is this?
Well, I do not have first-hand data.
Of course, Mr. Femi, your school is in the urban area, so of course I know it doesn't have this kind of problem. But you are
I can
like
comment.
Abound.
I can comment.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Like I was saying, I do not have first-hand information on the salary structures of those schools in the urban areas. However, from growing concerns, raised here and there, it is likely to be very true. Plus, I'm an employer of labor. So there have been times when I have been privileged to interview teachers who want to move from where they are to other schools.
Yes.
And when you ask them, what is your present salary? It's amazing that you hear people telling you, they earn 25,000, 30,000 naira. So that is, very, very true. And of course, what this does, like you mentioned earlier on, is that it cuts down on the quality of education, because you're bringing in people who do not have the expertise or the qualification to teach children. So you will always have those gaps in the education system because of the quality of people who are being brought in because of the quality of infrastructure and so on and so forth. Yes. So this has affected the quality of teaching and learning in some parts of the country.
And of course, follow up to this question, the fact that we know that in this present day, Nigeria, because of economic considerations, many trained graduates actually, because they cannot find job placement elsewhere, it's right their area of study, just take to teaching just to make ends meet. And that has also affected the quality of schools, of education in this private school. So, what are your views like that? Because there was a time that a policy came out that only graduates of education to be employed as teachers, even in private schools. How well are private schools able to adhere to this policy?
So, looking at your first question, yes, unfortunately, this is a country where there are no jobs.
Yes.
And when young graduates graduate from the university, there are lots of expectations from the homes, from the families. You want a child you have, sent to school all these years to become useful to the society and to himself, to the family. So there is pressure. And because of that, a lot of young people who do not have business teaching go into teaching, and they do not have the requisite qualification. So they enter the class, and your guess is as good as mine. It's a disaster because oftentimes the children are the ones at the receiving end.
Yes,
so this is a big problem, and it's something we need to tackle as quickly as possible.
Okay. Now, just also follow up to my previous question. Do you think we have enough teachers in Nigeria presently as we speak? Because there have been concerns over the art of teachers, especially qualified ones in Nigeria. Do we have enough teachers? What's supposed to be the teacher ratio in schools?
Okay.
Teacher to pupil ratio.
Okay. Looking at whether we have enough teachers, I would say there are plenty of people who call themselves teachers. But then the real question is, are they qualified?
Qualified teachers?
So we do have a shortage of qualified teachers. As a matter of fact, I think a UBEC survey just recently said that we have a teacher shortage up to the tune of about 200,000.
200,000.
And that is just for public schools. So there are places you go to in this part of the country where one person is teaching more than two subjects.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the specialization may not even be in any of the subjects. So yes, there is a dearth of qualified teachers in Nigeria. And in order to address this, I think that there is a need for all the stakeholders, not just government, yes, but all the well-meaning Nigerians who have the ability to do so, to begin to treat the teaching profession with the dignity it deserves. For instance, in Finland, a lot of people talk about Finland. In Finland, you cannot teach unless you have a master's degree. And they go for people who even have first-class degrees in those areas of specialization. Now, another thing you need to know about Finland is that only 10% of the people who apply to become teachers succeed. So this is a country where education
very competitive,
ranking very, very high in all of the sectors. As a matter of fact, if you're a teacher in Finland, you are as good as a doctor or a lawyer in terms of the recognition you get. So if we're able to recognize teaching and give it the honor it deserves, you will agree with me that we will attract best, the most qualified people to teach in Nigeria.
Now, based on the example you just gave, do you think that teachers are well remunerated enough in Nigeria? In all sectors, both private and public schools?
I will be honest with you. I don't mean to be selfish, but my answer is no. The remuneration is poor. I just gave you instances where I've been privileged to be part of interview panels, and teachers, graduates, are telling you that they are earning 30,000 naira. In today's world, how do you expect them to give their best to the children they are supposed to be teaching? So my answer is a no. teachers are not well remunerated in Nigeria. Now, apart from the remuneration, let's talk about the prestige that goes with the job.
Yes.
It's not there anymore. In those days, when we were in school, I remember we would go to some of our teachers' farms and help them out on the farm. Today, which child will do that? Today in school, when you ask children in primary school, how many of you want to become teachers? If you no, you may get up to like 5 or 10, but as they get to secondary school, ask them the same question. It's zero, because they've seen the living conditions of teachers.
If I may chip in, Lufemi, it's not just in teaching profession only, because a veteran actually gave a report. She wrote a columnist as she went to one of the privately owned universities in Abuja, and after lecturing them, she now asked, which among you will want to be a journalist when you graduate? He said there was no hand up. She was taken aback, and at the end of the day, she each and everyone, where do you want to work? This was the CBN, this was the NNPC, just like that. So it's not just only in teaching profession. I'm just trying to tell you. But why is it that there's no prestige attached to the teaching profession? Of course, there's a saying then that teacher's reward is in heaven. Do you also buy into that?
No, I don't agree with that. Yes, part of it is in heaven, but we are here first. So let us enjoy it here.
What should actually be done to actually increase the prestige of teachers? Because even our president, was it the outgoing president, President Muhammadu Buhari, even extended the tenure to 65 years.
And that is a step in the right
He
direction.
did increase their wages, right? If I recall.
Yes, I think.
So at the end of the day, why is teaching profession not getting the prestige it deserves? Because everybody, all professions come out from teachers.
So I think one good way to answer that question is that we need to give teaching the honor it deserves. And that is not going to come from anywhere else but from our government. Why do I say that? So once in a while you have these awards, Grand Commander and Commander and all of that. I want to see a situation where teachers in the primary school clinch that award. I want to see a situation where teachers in the secondary school clinch that award. By doing that, you are giving teaching the dignity, the respect that it deserves. There are a few organizations in Nigeria today who already give awards to teachers. So Maltina Teacher of the Year, the Middle Hall Foundation, ACCA, that accounting organization. They do that, and when these teachers win, they give them, for instance, in 2018, I won, the best school leader of the year category, and I got some, small money. That encouraged me. That boosted me.
Even some state governments, I recall the former past governor of Edo State, Obaseki. He also did that during that time.
So let's do more of that. Let's put teaching where it belongs. When people say that teaching is what it is supposed to be, you will have people whose first choice is to teach, not second choice.
Well, is on that basis we are going for a break. When we come back, we'll continue on from where we stopped. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Leadership TV for God and country.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Yes, you're welcome back. In case you're just joining in, the program is The Big Issue, and today's big issue is on growing concern over quality of private education. And with me in the studio is also an education stakeholder. He is Mr. Olufemi Olakmomile, Head of School at Duvie International School. Welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, just before we left off, we were talking about asking quality, because many people, stakeholders, including parents, are complaining that the quality of private schools is actually dwindling, considering the fact that about 80% of 50,000 private schools in Nigeria are in private hands, while 20% is just for that is secondary school is just in the hands of the public. Now, before we went on break, there's a question that came to my mind. There are also concerns about the prevalence of exam malpractices. And you recall that when you go through reports, aside from JAM, from every other exam bodies, it's discovered that majority of exam practices originate from private schools. These private schools want to be top at utmost, even if it's going through illegal means, teaching their students during the exam just to ensure that the school stay on top. Why is this so?
Well, thank you very much. The saga of exam malpractice is real in Nigeria. Unfortunately, it goes back to the quality of education that we have. Because most of the students who are involved in exam malpractice do so because they have a poor foundation educationally. If we had qualified teachers who work with these children, the tendency for us to have exam malpractice will be lower. Take in those days, for instance, when we were much younger in primary school, the issue of exam malpractice was not so much of a big issue.
It wasn't.
It's in recent times, over the years, where you have a lot of this happening. So, like you said, you have it in the private school, but I dare say, yes, you also have it in the public,
school. Is not so prevalent.
So, and most of the times, some private schools that do this because they are trying to create a fake standard.
Yes.
Okay, so just trying to give the public the impression that we're doing so well, and this is what our results are like. Oftentimes, but that's not true most of the times. It's a smoke screen.
But what are private schools, as the head of school at the international school, what they can also talk about best practices, how to curtail this exam practice? What can be done to curtail it, or to, if not to eliminate it?
So I think it's important that we teach students well. When we have qualified teachers who teach well. I used to have a teacher in those days in when I was in the university, Mr. Bassi. He taught us physics. Because of the way this man taught that course, sincerely everybody passed. And there was no need to cheat. So the first thing is to tidy up on the quality of teaching and learning. And to do that, we need to ensure that we have qualified teachers who are teaching. Secondly, we need to educate our children on why they should not cheat. You don't need to cheat to succeed. Unfortunately, this issue of cheating and exam malpractice has eaten so deep into the fabrics of our economy. And so you discover that cheating has gone beyond just education, because lots of people cheat to get things nowadays. So if we're able to educate them and to let them know that there are better ways, you can work hard in order to succeed, I believe that will go a long way in curbing the menace of exam malpractice.
All right, thank you so much. Now we are looking at federal government or state government now, as it were, playing supervisory role over this private school to ensure that they maintain standards. Federal government, are they still doing very well?
I will say yes.
Is the government doing well?
I will say yes. I will say that based on the experience I have. So I work in a private school, and I know that the federal government, through the Ministry of Education, through the Department of Quality Assurance, has always visited my school. And when they visit, they are checking on each of those areas, the personnel, the infrastructure, the curriculum, just to be sure that all of these are up to standard. Now, what happens in other schools, I cannot really say. But I must say that there is a lot of room for improvement. So we cannot rule out the fact that there is room for improvement. And I want to encourage that the federal government needs to, work harder through the educational organs to get the improvement that is needed. So, for instance, even these private schools that we're talking about, how did they start? What processes were put in place to ensure that they had everything that was required before they went into business? So we have agencies of government that are responsible for this. I mentioned the DQA, for instance. They are supposed to run physical inspections. They're supposed to come up with recommendations, advise, whoever is supposed to approve for those schools to swing into action. So we need to look into all of that.
All right. Now, still on the issue of education sector, I want to find out what is your view on Nigeria's education sector, and what, in your view, do you think should be done to enhance its growth?
Okay, like I said earlier on, we have come a long way, right from the pre-colonial eras. We've had our ups and downs, changes in policies, based on changes in leadership and all of that. However, if we want to improve the quality of education in the school, we've said a lot about the quality of the teachers. We've said a lot about infrastructure. We also need to look at our curriculum.
Okay.
Make sure that our curriculum is based on our peculiarities. Okay, so you can't bring a curriculum from the UK and say because it is UK curriculum, we just apply it hook, line, and sinker. We need to adapt it to our system. Secondly, let's look at technology. We also need to look at how we can leverage technology. It's a modern world, 21st century world. And the statistics are out there. It will shock you to know that children in other countries have gone very far in terms of how technology is utilized in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We need to leverage technology, get our teachers properly trained, and then ensure that the various organs of government that are supposed to carry out the inspection and all of those oversight functions are doing what needs to be done. If we're able to tidy up on all of these areas, of course, you can be sure that the quality of education will improve.
Yes, a lot has been said about Nigeria's curricula, and it seems like nothing has been done about it, because I remember a World Bank executive did say that many Nigerian graduates are unemployable because of their curriculum. They cannot even actualize what they studied in school. Read so many rhetorics over our curricula. What can be done? Who will take that step to ensure that our curriculum are tailored according to our needs and our peculiarities? Especially in this modern world where IT is driving the system. Where you talk about the Western world, we have Jeff Bezos, you have Elon Musk. They are just IT specialists, and they are the ones that are ruling the world. So what can actually be done? And at private schools, we still have private schools that still don't have enough computers. They're not teaching much of IT to their students.
Okay. So the issue of the curriculum, I would not exactly say that nothing is being done. So for instance, I know that last year, the Minister of Education actually approved a recently modified curriculum, especially for our basic education. That of the senior secondary school, I think, will be ready sometime this year. And in that curriculum, they took a lot of things into consideration. So, for instance, those things that are peculiar to us, in terms of maybe the languages, that are indigenous to us as a people, in terms of some other crafts, So we have more of that in the curriculum, and I think that is a step in the right direction. However, putting this curriculum in place is one thing. Helping the teachers to be able to deliver it is also very important. So the government needs to look beyond, okay, thank God we've been able to put this curriculum here. What training do our teachers require to be able to fully implement this curriculum? So That's one big advice I would want to give to the government. We need to be very intentional about that.
All right. Recently, the education minister announced that history was returning to schools. How would you accept? How would you react to that, given the fact that many people have the opinion that history is distorted? So, which history are they going to be taught?
Well, from an educator's point of view, history returned to school years ago. Because in my school, for instance, we teach history. And the history we teach, I can assure you, is not diluted. It's the history of our country. It's letting our children know who our past heroes are, or the likes of Obafemi Awolowo, Sam Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe. You know, what did they do? How did they handle this country when they were in charge and stuff like that? So we have all of those things, and I want to believe that the history being taught to a very large extent is not corrupted. It's not diluted. It's original.
All right, thank you so much. In case you are still watching, the program is The Big Issue. Today's big issue, we are looking at growing concern over quality of private schools. And just before we go, I want to find out on this Safe School initiative. Recently, just 3 days ago, there was a bomb explosion in Islamia in Buhari local council. What are schools doing, especially private? Because I remember the federal government set up a Safe School initiative in 2014 to ensure that, given the rise of Boko Haram bomb blasts in schools, to ensure that there was safety in schools, most especially public schools. So private schools, what are you doing in regards to ensuring safety in your environment?
So we as a private school, we have an umbrella body, NAPS.
Yes.
Okay, and most of the times before we do anything, it's in consultation with NAPS, because NAPS relates directly with the bigger organs of government. But I can tell you that many private schools are doing a lot in order to ensure safety and security. In any case, trust our Nigerian parents. Many of them will not even put their children in your school if they cannot be assured of the safety and the security. So making sure, for instance, that you have systems that record attendance of not just the children, of the people who bring the children to the school and take them back home. Be it manual or electronic, you should be able to have that. And most of those systems will even have facilities where you're able to capture the portraits or pictures of the people who bring them to the school. Schools are installing gadgets, various gadgets. Some schools now have armed guards, just to be sure that there is enough security. Recently there was, I think, something going on around Abuja. Some, bodies saying they were going to attack schools and things like that. But thank God the DSS was able to come up, and I think from the report I got, I think they were able to handle it well. So everybody is working hard to ensure that there is security in our schools, and we do not have the unfortunate incident that happened in the place we talked about, and the Boko Haram insurgents and all of that.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on today's inaugural edition for the year, The Big Issue. Well, viewers, this is where we come to the end of today's The Big Issue. Of course, we'll be talking about the growing concern over private schools in Nigeria. And I've had the pleasure of having company, the head of school at Dubie International School, Mr. Olufemi Polakbomile. My name is Winifred Ogbebonte. We come your way again with another fresh edition of the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.